the community so that others can tune in as we have this very important discussion.
Okay, now let's go to the YouTube.
Okay, so it is now live on YouTube. And we need to change the screenshot, of course.
You have an image for it?
No, but we will. Bear with us one moment, family. I'm very excited to see what everyone has to say here. As we mentioned earlier, we will not be coming from merely a secular standpoint of this very serious issue we have with our youth, but we have to come from a biblical standpoint as well, because everyone is trying to address this only from a secular standpoint. I remember back in the days when they used to have all of the little YMCAs and things of that nature. And I'm not saying anything is wrong with those things, because I enjoyed the YMCA coming up. And a lot of us did. But those were only putting a Band-Aid on the real issues that we have as a people. It was only putting a Band-Aid on it. And it wasn't addressing the lack of education and the lack of understanding that we have in black households and black communities. We weren't addressing that. We were just saying, okay, let's occupy the children's time to get them off the streets. And I'm sure that every area is different. I'm sure that in some communities, the YMCAs took things a step further. Okay? But I know for the ones that we attended, it was all about occupying our time. Giving us something to do after school. But in terms of really sitting us down and teaching us history and life lessons and things of that nature, they fell short of that big time. So we are not talking about putting a Band-Aid on this at all. Again, we will be right with you, family. Just bear with us one moment. We are almost there.
Almost there. Just give us one moment.
We're
close.
And we'll be able to stop with the small talk.
Yes.
Yes.
Exactly. This is a much needed discussion, and we are going to bring it under the guidance of Yah, and we got to bring the things that Yah put on our hearts, the things that we see, and so just bear with us, and we'll just want to get this thing set up right so we can go ahead on and get started. But I promise you, this one will shine some light on why we see the things we going on and what's happening.
And of course, we are going to take it way back, family. We're going to take it way back, because the problems that we have don't just originate with our young people.
Right.
It would be very foolish to think such a thing.
That's right.
This started way back when, and so we are live now. I think we got a couple of things situated here. I'm going to make some quick adjustments to the screen the way it is being displayed.
I guess we have to make it shorter now.
Yes. Okay, because I don't want to have anyone too cut off here.
Shrink
so there we are.
You can shrink it all the way to the sides. Now it look like before it wasn't doing that. So
okay.
Yeah.
Alrighty.
There we go.
So that is showing a lot better for us. Okay, shalom, family. Shalom, shalom, shalom.
That's right. Shabbat shalom. Hallelujah.
Shabbat shalom. We would like to thank everyone who is joining us, and I'm just going to allow everyone to introduce themselves, and we will take it from there. We're going to start with, one moment here.
It's another browser.
The state of our youth. Okay, we are going to start with Trudy Shepherd. Shalom.
We can't hear her. Hold on 1 second.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Go right ahead.
Shalom.
Shalom.
I see you have your youth joining us.
Still kind of low.
Wonderful. Glad to see you too, young man.
All right, my name is Trudy Shepherd. I'm from the island of Jamaica. I now reside in the state of Florida. I'm a mother of 3, also married, and I'm a true believer in Yah.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
Wonderful.
Yes.
Okay, so
Yes.
I believe in Yah too. Yes, you
that's
do.
Good.
wonderful,
Yes, you
wonderful,
do.
young man.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Okay, so Brother Rafiat, go ahead and introduce yourself as well. That's wonderful, wonderful, young man. Wonderful.
Hold on 1 second.
One moment,
Hold
one
on
moment.
1 second, brother.
Okay, there's a way that we need to do this so that our voices aren't throwing back at us.
Hold on 1 second.
One moment, one moment.
brother.
Okay, there's a way that we need to do this so that our voices aren't throwing back at us. We didn't have this problem before.
What's going on down here? What's this here? Okay.
Oh, I think,
Oh, it's here. It's here. We gotta shut this volume. Here, what's this here? Just take care.
oh, I think,
Oh.
And I don't have, wouldn't say I'm someone more or less that has kids or anything, but I do work at a job that, a lot of our associates are young people. And so I do see a lot of things with the future of the young people. So I'm really looking forward to discussing this here. And I'm also located in Alabama.
Okay, wonderful, wonderful. We just got message from one of our daughters to inform us that our YouTube audience wasn't hearing us.
Yes.
And so the sound is back. We're thankful for that little flagging there to let us know. So we're going to go to Yaya.
Hi, family. My name is Yaya. I'm glad to be a part of the conversation. I don't have a response right now because I'm going to wait for y'all to introduce what y'all have to say so, I can give my input. But I'm glad to be here. I'm glad to be amongst my family and like-minded individuals.
Okay, wonderful.
Wonderful, yes.
Okay, so we're going to get started with this. We have a few things that we wanted to discuss in all of this.
Yeah, what I want to do is I want to go over a few things first before we go into this because I want to establish something so that everyone can have a good idea of what's going on, okay? First, let's establish the fact, okay? We know for a fact that generations have gotten worse and worse, okay? Now, the reason why most youth don't see it is because they are young. But you take someone that's 50, 60, 70 years old, they will tell you they know for a fact that things have gotten worse and worse with the youth over the last 20, 30, 40 years. They will tell you. See, I'm old enough to know what the youth was like when I was young, and how the youth back in the days were scared to walk around with a knife, yet alone a gun. But now you got youth that run around with guns. You see, it's a whole different thing that's going on now. Things have gotten worse. And so I got a scripture that I want to share with you. And this is 2 Timothy chapter 3, verse 13. You see it?
Yeah, I got this big heavy Bible. Okay, what is it again?
It's 2 Timothy chapter 3, and we're going to look at verse 13.
2 Timothy chapter 3, verse 13. It says, "But evil men and seducers shall wax worse and worse, deceiving and being deceived."
So it's letting you know that things are going to get worse. But let me say this to you, though, right? I want you to think about this for 1 minute, right? We know that the scripture says, right, that except those days be shortened, there should be no flesh saved, right? So when the scripture makes that statement, it's letting you know things going to get so bad that he had to shorten the days. That means in our communities, in our life, period, things are just going to get worse. So the youth are getting worse. And there's a reason for it. And guess what, youth? Don't get offended by this. It's not your fault, okay? When you really look at things, the way things have been going over the past 20, 30 years, you see, you could take a child back in the 60s and send them to the public school and not have to worry about this child coming back home on drugs or then got involved into a lot of different crazy stuff. And maybe even in the 70s. But I remember going to school as a teenager at in high school. And I'm telling you, by the time I got to high school, things started to rev up and get kind of crazy. At the most, you would have saw a kid with a knife in high school back in those days. But then the next generation after me, because I knew some of the young men that went to school after me, that next generation, they collected more than 200 guns in 1 year from students. You understand what I'm saying? So things are getting worse, and they have getting worse and worse with the youth. Now, the problem is it's hard to send children to a school where you have parents who don't believe in the scriptures, They don't believe in that your child should abstain from lust. They don't believe that your child should abstain from filthy communication. They don't believe that your child should abstain from all these different kinds of things. Matter of fact, they're trying to teach children about lust in the school system. And so basically what I'm saying is, it's hard to put a child in that environment and expect them not to grow up and pick up some of these things and get worse than what we were when we were growing up.
Absolutely. And so we're going to be talking about governmental or systematic involvement in the condition of our children. Right? Okay, so we want to open up the conversation to everyone that is on this panel. And the first thing that I would like to talk about is the coddling. Okay? The coddling. Now that we've already established that no one is here to blame the youth by themselves, because right now, if you're a parent and you're going through very significant, horrible situation with your child, your teenager, it's very hard for you to look at this smart mouth young person that is cursing you out, in some cases putting their hands on you or threatening you. It's very difficult for you to look at that child and as innocent. Not saying that they are, but it's very difficult for you to look at them and say, well, it's not their fault entirely, because you are going through something with that child. But what we've got to do is we have to look at society as a whole and how this whole system has played a detrimental part in the shaping of the minds of your young people. So we want to start off with coddling. In what ways do we feel that parents or the system at large is coddling our young people into believing that their behavior is acceptable? I'm going to let Rashad, since you are in the educational arena, I want to open it up and let you take the floor first on the coddling of our young people.
Thank you for letting me kick it off. I think that so for what I'm seeing is the educational system has changed, and I love how you talk about, like, when you have your children in the school system, there's a lot that goes into that, because we have parents who are not engaged or not involved at all.
That's right.
And so it becomes like, now education becomes like this babysitting system where, my job is to bring my child to the school, leave them for 8 hours, come back and pick them up. And, we have parents who do not engage in the educational system at all. And you can understand by the way the parent acts why the child acts the way they do. So it's not hard once you start to understand, the mother or the father who comes in and has an attitude over, like, your child not turning in work. And then it's like, well, they should be. But it's like, no, like, what are you doing? So I think a lot of the coddling is part of that system. But also now in Tennessee, and I'm not sure if this is in other states as well, like, students are not, you can't fail a student now.
Wow.
So they can make whatever grade they want, but they are not allowed to fail. So I think, like, that's a big part of this coddling that's happening, is there's no consequence. Students can come in the classroom, go to sleep, not do any work all semester long, and you still have to pass them out of that particular class.
Oh, no.
Wow.
So what consequence do you have as a student to do? What are you coming to school for? To learn, to be educated. But if you have no desire for that, and now there's no consequence, what are you supposed to do?
Right.
So I think, like, that's a big part of it as well. And now students also know that, like, teachers, they dare students, they dare teachers to, like, touch me. I dare you to touch me. Back in the day, it would be this thing of, you wouldn't ever go out or disrespect your parents or a teacher, or, we all did things. I went to school in the 90s, and so we did our own little things, but we never disrespected teachers. Teacher came around, man, please do something, man. Hey, man, don't cuss, man. Teacher right there. Now it's just like, cussing is just like what they do. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's no consequence. There's no repercussion that happens. It used to be a zero tolerance thing. Now the only zero tolerance is if you bring a weapon to school, or, like, cussing a teacher out. Teachers go through PTSD every single day because they got to come in with their mindset. And this is why the turnover ratio for teachers is so high, because people are like, I can't do this.
Can't do this.
Yeah.
I won't do it. So a lot of that coddling is, there's no repercussion.
Yeah.
There's no punishment. And so because there is not any of those things, students just feel like they can just do whatever.
Yeah.
And so you really have to drill down as a teacher to even get to a place where you can really make an impact. But yeah, it's no consequence. So that's one of the major things I see.
Yes. One thing I want to say too, and this kind of reminds me of something, right? Because what you're saying is so true. Okay, back when I was in the 5th grade, okay, I had a best friend of mine. We were just really, really good friends, and we kind of goofed off a lot in class. We goofed off so much in class that I got a D and almost failed, but he did fail, and he had to repeat the 5th grade again. I barely made it to the 6th grade. And so it scared me because I said, man, had I failed, my mama would kill me. I just knew it. And with him, when he failed, the shame of it hit him so bad until when he came back that next year, he got all good grades. Same with me. When I came back next year, my grades had jumped up because it scared us, right? But watch this. Do you know he went on to become an engineer? Wow. Failed the 5th grade, but he turned things around. When he went through high school with us, he was a year behind us, but he got all A's and he ended up becoming an engineer. Wow. But what if they hadn't done that?
Yeah. So facing consequences caused him to make a change.
Yes. It helped me too, seeing what happened to him. Wow.
And so, Brother Raphael, we want to give the floor to you next. You have to unmute yourself, brother.
Sorry about that. Yeah, the coddling, I guess as I get older, at this point, a lot of things don't surprise me the way the world is. And definitely, just like your brother Watchman, I kind of was, same thing. I kind of fell into that same situation in the 5th grade. And I almost failed. And I ended up taking myself to summer school to work my butt off just to pass so I can go into, matter of fact, that was in the 8th grade actually. I was, playing around and everything like that, being a class clown. And basically I almost got left back until I pushed myself to go to summer school. And technically my family really didn't push it on me, so I could have actually just hung out that whole summer and just got left back. But upon my own self, I decided to go to summer school just so I can go back so I can make it to the 9th grade. But I also see my friend get left back and had to start the 8th grade over back in junior high school. So it gave me some type of pride at the time that I actually pushed myself because, like I said, my family, I had some difficulties growing up as far as with my parents. And like I said, my mother, she struggled with drug addiction and stuff like that. So the house didn't have a lot of structure. And that's what happens with a lot of these children in these communities too. Around here right now, there's a young kid. He's around like 12 years old, and I speak with him a lot. I ask him about what does he want to be when he get older, and he says he wants to be a rapper. So I asked him. I said, "You want to be a rapper? So let me hear you rap something." But he didn't know how to rap. So I'm saying you want to be a rapper, but you don't even know how to rap. You don't even know how to put words together. You don't even know how to like write or even. And that's the problem with us. That a lot of times the parents are not pushing their children. Just like the brother was saying, it's like, okay, get my child up, send them to school, and then the parents go and do their own thing. There's no structure, and that's the problem with us as Israel. A lot of us, we're not following the ways of the Most High, the laws. This is what the laws coming to give us that order. We need that as a people, because we are a lawless people, and it could rather be, and that's the reason why the children are at a menace today. As far as, like you said, Watchman, bringing guns to school, weapons and so on, because there's no governance of the mind. There's no head. There's no head here. There's no order.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just what I see right now. It's just we have no leader as an individual. That's what we are still showing for things from the government, from the same government that enslaved us and basically kept us in oppression. We're asking the oppressor for help and blessings when we have the evidence of how they believe in us, and even when it comes down to the school system, the education ain't there. I was in special ed. I grew up in special ed. My whole from the 2nd grade until I dropped out in the 10th grade, but I went back and got my GED. But when I was in school, we was living in a shelter. Not to get into the sob story stuff, and the teachers didn't help me. I remember when I wanted to learn, but I was kind of I had that insecurity to really speak up. And instead of the teacher helping me, what she did was just sign me over, and then they put me into a special ed. So I was on a little bus and everything like that, and I was like that throughout my whole school year, So I always had that insecurity when it came down to school and education. That's another reason why I dropped out of school too, because I kind of felt like this wasn't for me, and I felt like outside is what, and I think that's what a lot of our people are going through too. A lot of our young people, they don't have that confidence in education, and they don't have that confidence in themselves. So what they do is go to what's easy, and you see with you got the music as an influence, you got sports, you got this whole sexual culture. So those things are easy. So it's easier to go out and deal with that compared to going to school and sticking to that line. It's easy to go out and, I'm not saying it's easy because it's hard too, but it's easy to go and sell drugs and be quick money, but you're paying yourself through pain. It's easy to drop out and be a menace to society because you're letting out all of that frustration and anger that's within, because sometimes that's the only way to express yourself. They don't know how to express themselves in a more articulate way. And that's kind of, what the issue, that's one of the main issues is education. A lot of it is education. My people are destroyed for lack of knowledge.
So I wanted to address a question from someone in our chat. The question is from John Entertainment. They said, what about accountability towards parents? The teaching starts in the house.
That's correct. Yes.
That is definitely something that we will be talking about. As a matter of fact, we started it off by saying exactly that, that we are not directing this at the children or the students or the youth only.
Right.
We established that up front just because we knew that question would come. Leading up into this time, we've been getting that question a lot already. What about the parents? What if you have a situation where the parents are not suitable or not caring or not doing their part in all of this? That's probably, I'm going to say, the biggest part in this.
Yes.
Okay? But before I get into it more, I would like to open up the question about coddling, the question of coddling, to someone else on our panel. Who wants to go next on that before I expound on the coddling as well?
This is Kimberly. I do have some insight, and there's always also some great points that you all made. And as far as the coddling, I think that there is a lot of that going on in this generation. And I'll just speak, when I was coming up, I actually did not get that. My parents actually stayed, they actually stayed on top of me. I was getting discipline from not just my mom, my dad, my grandparents. And so for me, I was actually considered a bad child, or they would consider me a bad child. But I don't think that a lot of that is happening nowadays. And so, what we have is, a lot of children just kind of saying what they're saying, what they want to say. I think a lot of influence comes from the, not necessarily environment, but I think also some of the things that they're exposed to, such as the media. I think that the things that they listen to encourages a lot of the behavior, and it's hard to compete with that because it's everywhere.
Yes.
And they can get it on their phones, they can get it at a friend's house. You can try to regulate that or manage that, but they'll just go to their friend's house or something like that. And that influence is not positive. A lot of things that's in the media, that's really what I think is strong point here that influences them to behave this way. My associates that I work with, a lot of them are very, very young. This is the first job that they've had. They don't understand what retirement is. They think that somehow money is going to always be available and provided. And they're willing to either quit their jobs without having something else lined up. They don't want to be told anything. You can't tell them anything. And I think that I think that they don't view the people who are actually in the working field as real role models. I honestly think that their role models are the people they can't touch through TV. So you have a lot of competition with that. And that's just overall my thoughts.
Okay, so we're gonna Sister Fakriya has raised her hand on this issue of coddling our young people, and so we are gonna let her speak on that issue.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Your mic is cutting in and out for some reason.
Okay. Yeah, it's probably my phone. I don't know why. I'm just looking
We're unable to hear you.
Yeah, I think your phone, it may be because it's wireless. Maybe it's doing a wireless thing.
No, they're saying, oh, why was he on?
We're unable to hear you, Sister Fakriya. It's cutting in and out. Your mic is cutting in and out. No.
You hear me now? No.
Oh, I just heard you, but it's cutting in and out.
Yes, your mic is working, but what's going on is it's kind of cutting in and out. Like you keep losing the signal. We're hearing like part words, so we can't really understand what you're saying from time to time.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. It's kind of cloudy here. That could be why.
Yes.
Well, I worked at social services for 19 years, and Sister Kimberly is correct. They don't look at that as a role model. They always say, "Oh, why was you here so long?" And when I was coming along, being at one job for a long time was good, but now that's kind of frowned upon. And also, what Brother Rashad was saying, there was a child that was in foster care that was missing for like 6 months. No one at my job and as a social worker looked for her at all. She contacted her mother to contact social services to say that she wanted to come back. So my question was, if you're in contact with your mom, why are you in foster care in the first place?
Right. Something is definitely amiss there. I see what you're saying. There's so much going on with our youth that it's really hard to pinpoint in every situation what exactly is going on, but it's definitely something amiss when someone can fall through the cracks for 6 months.
Yeah. I want to say this here, and
6 whole months and no one looked for her.
Wow.
No one looked for this young lady. She was on Facebook because the young ladies at my job pulled her up on Facebook and was like, "Isn't she one of our children?" And I looked up and I was like, "Yeah, she is." And she was on runaway status and no one looked for her. When she got tired of going from couch to couch, she contacted her mother, who contacted the social worker, saying she wanted to come back into foster care.
How old was she?
How old was this young woman?
16. I think
Okay.
15 or 16.
Okay. Now, I want to say something here. I want you all to, those of you that are parents, I want you to understand something, right? There's a certain mindset you have to have as parents, and you got to listen to what I'm telling you here, because it's so important that you get this, right? Now, we have geese that have little baby geese, right? And we raised all these geese from babies, right? Even the grown-ups we raised from babies. I can't just go over there and try to grab one of those baby geese, because the parents will literally get into attack mode, okay? Likewise, right? Animals in the wild, they have the buffalo won't let you get near their youth, right? The lion that won't let you get near their cubs. The elephant won't let anything get near its cubs. These animals get extremely aggressive because they love their cubs and they watch over them completely. Now you got to ask yourself this, because I've had a situation happen with us in our in our lifetime, you know, when our child alive was young, okay, we send them away to the school system, right? I remember one time in the school system, he got stabbed in the hand, was it? Yeah, he got stabbed in the hand with a pencil. And he came home crying, and I was like...
In the first grade.
Yeah, in the first grade, y'all. First grade, right? Then there were kids that was tripping, kicking chairs out from under him, fell and hurt himself. And there's a number of things going on, right? And so then I was like, well, maybe we can make this work out. We can make it work out, you know? Because I was just thinking, you know, he's off to school and... You know, and I had a different mindset then. I said, well, it's good that they go off to school because give me time, this time to myself. You know what I'm saying? And I ain't got to be worried about them whatever they in school, right? Okay, pay attention now. Then, when we moved down south and we decided to put them in the public school system then, I saw something that happened. He was under so much pressure. Stress until it was crazy, the stress that he was under. And he had this thing he used to do when he get under stress, he'd be scratching his head here. And he was under so much stress, he had a scratch on his forehead here that you could see, a marking. And I saw that, I was like, man, what's going on? Then we messed around and saw this footage, this information, where this young boy committed suicide because he was too afraid to go to school the next day.
To face his teachers.
Yes. Because of the stress everybody was putting on. When I saw that stuff and I looked at my boy and saw what he was going through, I said, that's it. I said, we gonna homeschool you, man. I brought him home, started homeschooling him, and everything just changed. Mm-hmm. He was no longer around kids who were trying to hurt him. He was no longer around all this crazy music. He was no longer, because we don't play that stuff in our house. Mm-hmm. So you can't just get it around us. Mm-hmm. If our children don't listen to that stuff, they don't know about that stuff because we don't let them listen to that stuff. And they don't have friends that listen to that stuff. You get what I'm saying?
And that's why it's important that parents are on one accord, because in that issue, Watchman and I were not on one accord.
Yes.
For the longest, I wanted to pull my children out of that environment even before we moved. She did. Even before we left Michigan. I wanted to do this. And I understood the whole idea of wanting your time to yourself, but I also understood that that's not a good environment for the children. Okay, so we were not on one accord in that. Yeah. And so this was one of my prayers. Yeah. That the Most High would get this man on one accord. Yeah. Because you do have situations where the father says no, the mother says yes, or the mother says no and the father says yes. Yes. And when you have that, it's not going to be harmony in that situation. Yes. And so the Most High had to work that situation. Unfortunately, he had to see the stress that our son was going through before the decision was finally made to remove them from public school and to homeschool them fully. Yeah, that's what the decision was made.
I fought it too, because she wanted to, come on, I want to just go to homeschool. And I was like, no, we can go to cinema and let them deal with that.
I got my quiet time. I remember that whole conversation.
Yeah. And so it got to the point where I began to sit back and say, I said, man, if I have to pull out some books and you know, and start putting together lessons for him and for Sophia, because she was about to start at school when we finally moved down south, and it got to the point where I said, you know what, I can't let this world get a hold of them like that and mess them all up. They can't go through the stuff that I've seen and I've been through as a youth. I said, I can't let them go through all that crazy stuff.
And at the time, and we're going to let Javier speak in just one moment, at the time we were still Christians. So our oldest daughter, she wasn't really feeling the homeschool thing. So we found a Christian school, a Christian private school in the area that we had moved to, and we put her in the Christian school for a time. But anyway, you know, we finally realized that even in that situation, it was majority Caucasian. We're not trying to be funny when we say this, but there was some severe racism, even in the Christian Caucasian school. It was there. It wasn't in our minds. It was there.
It was there.
But anyway, we're going to go ahead and let Javier, she has her hand raised, concerning the question of coddling our young people.
Just wanted to say I definitely agree with everything that you guys just said. Like, that's a lot of that is what we're dealing with now with our kids going into the schools and the public schools, just being subjected to everything. Like we try to keep a certain standard in the household, following God, teaching them, doing our Sabbaths together as well, but sending them out into the world is
it undoes it.
Yeah, all the stuff that, and then it's the teachers too. That's my biggest issue right now. Is a lot of these young teachers, and this is what I've witnessed myself. They're, instead of it being like when I was younger, like I didn't know anything about my teachers other than their name. These younger teachers that I've had the experience of dealing with my kids now, you know, talking about them being on child support, they try to basically be on the same level as the kids. School with them and stuff like that, and you know, just taking in the stuff that they're doing as well. And that's the thing that bothers me the most, because I didn't have that growing up. Like my stepfather was in the military, so I'm a military brat. The schools that I went to, you know, like I said, the teachers they were about teaching us. You know, they weren't hard on us or anything like that, but they came to school to do their job, teach us, fill in where they needed to, you know, to bring us up and whatnot. But the teachers nowadays, like, just on the same level as the kids, and we have to battle with that, because we're trying to teach our kids from the scriptures, and then they go to school and they have to battle against that every day, and then, you know, we have to battle basically against with the teachers. Well, Dad, I hear what you said about that, but my teacher said that, you know, this is that, and it becomes a struggle sometimes. It do. I wish, and I commend y'all for doing that. Like, we wish that we could do that, the homeschooling thing, but with, you know, the way society is now, we both have to work. I'm in factory work, and my wife, she's a medical assistant, so, you know, we have to send them out into the world, and it's getting so bad right now. Like, even with the pride thing and the stuff that's going on now, like, I don't want to touch too much on that subject, but it's really difficult. It's frustrating sometimes. Like, I pray about it. It's hard. It really is. It really
we
is
know.
hard.
We know it is.
Did anyone else want to raise their hands on this subject before we move on to the next?
Okay, for me, someone else is talking. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, for me, I'm going to have to take it down to memory lane. The Watchman said something a few weeks back. You know, when you're around your peers, when you were young, and someone said something that wasn't right, or they're going to do something, and everyone would go, ooh, ooh. I remember doing that, whether it was in my neighborhood or school, and among my peers as well. They did the same thing. I remember when Sunday came around, it wasn't, I'm tired, I'm sick, I don't want to go to church today. You was going to church that day. And we didn't have the privilege of a car in Jamaica back then. We walked, whether it was a mile, 2 miles, 3 miles, and we'll come back home. When we got back home, we were told to take up our church attire, hang it up. There was no friends that day. We sat down and watched movies together as far as the Sunday martinis. We ate together. We did our homework, and then it was off to bed. And I remember complaining several times, because I was raised by my aunt. My mom left me at an early age to come to America for a better life. And my aunt, I could honestly say she did a wonderful job. And I remember complaining so many times. I don't want to do this. Why is she like that? I don't want to do that. Even her children as well. And now that I'm older and seeing this new generation, even the generation before this one, you're like, oh my goodness. Thank you, Auntie.
Yes.
Thank Auntie for what you have done. Now, everyone here, Brother Rashad, you are so correct. It starts with the parents. Everything starts with the parents. You have to teach your children about Yah from the beginning and teach them how they should grow. I say start from the womb. That's where you have to start. teach them not only that right from wrong, the do's and the don'ts. You know, be involved in their lives more. Ask them about their friends. Get the friend number, the friend's mother's address, phone number. Intertwine with them. Find out what they're all about. And one thing I really want to touch on, I guess, as we go further in this discussion, is social media.
Yes.
Social media is a big destruction.
See if there's more than one
You
person.
can be bisexual today. You can date the other race. It's okay to use slurs addressing each other, like the B word, touching each other in certain positions. So when we get to that point, I would like to speak on that.
Okay, we're definitely going to cover that as well. And I'm seeing we're getting some feedback. Let me see. Okay. All right, we're going to move on to the subject of rebuke or reprieve. As a parent, knowing when to rebuke your children is very, very important. Knowing when to rebuke them or reprieve them, delay punishment for certain things. Someone said something in the chat, and I'm gonna back up a little bit to that, concerning, when children are in the public school setting, things are different than they were when we were coming up. Okay. Someone mentioned that you have the teachers who are dressing. Let me look at the statement exactly. It says these young teachers are dressing very inappropriately. Okay, so
we saw a picture, a meme or something that we seen where a teacher was dressed. The way the teacher was dressed was crazy, and the little boy was a boy there looking at her. It's like
right. And so there is so much involved with. We have to understand that it's not just one thing, not just two things, not just three. There is a vast array of things that are affecting or infecting the minds of our young people, and parents are stuck in this mode of not knowing what to do. Do I rebuke them? Do I withhold punishment? Or what do I do? Okay? This is why the scripture tells us to train up a child in the way that they should go.
That's right.
When you know that there are outside influences, I would say that you have to rebuke certain behaviors right away. You can't look at it and say, oh, they'll grow out of it, or this will happen, or that will happen.
Yes.
You have to address things right away. Okay? I don't care how small you might think it is. These things have to be addressed right away. Otherwise, that little seed is going to become a little twig first.
Yes.
And then it's going to become a little branch. And then it's going to grow and become a tree. Once it becomes a tree, it's harder to uproot it. Whereas right now, if it's a little weed like that I'm seeing right there, you just go pluck it up out of the ground, get it out of there, right?
Yes.
But when you allow certain behaviors in our young people to get out of control, and then you try to fix it, what we see happening now, I want to whoever wants to raise their hand next on this particular issue, what we are seeing happening now is that young people are getting out of control, and the parents are waiting until they're like 10, 12, 15, 16 years old, and then they want to try to rein it in.
It's too late.
Okay.
It's too late. I'm telling you right now, you got to deal with these things early on. Because once those children get older, 10, 11, 12 years old, it's harder then. They got a hunger for being a certain way, for being disrespectful. Now they just ain't going to just all of a sudden be respectful. You know what I'm saying?
Just because you want to teach them to.
Yeah, it's just hard. You can't allow them. It's especially like the music, for instance, right? When a child is 3, 4, 5 years old, 6 years old, you control that. They're in your home. You can really control what they're listening to, right? And you say, yeah, but when they go to their friend's house, they go listen to their friend's house. Well, you better cut them friends off from that boy.
Yeah.
Because what if his friends are selling drugs or get into using drugs at a young age, right? These things happen out there. So you got to really monitor your children, what they're doing, who they going around, and all these kind of things. Because once they get a hold of this stuff, I guarantee you, it's hard to break them from it. They'll grow, they'll sneak and do it. They'll be doing all kinds of things, and if today's youth feel like they can't survive without internet and a cell phone. which we as youth didn't have none of that. You get what I'm saying? And
Right.
we say, yeah, well, I want my child to have a cell phone, so I gotta get them on the phone or whatever. Okay, but if you give them that phone, that's gonna open the door up for other people to get a hold of them, right?
Right.
And other things, right?
And
if
not-
you give them freedom on the internet, they're gonna be able to get into all kinds of. Now I have children that I let get on the internet, but these are children that are older, that have we have
Guidance.
yeah, they have
Structure.
structure and all this. So now they know. Oh no, they don't want to see this. They don't want to see that. They're keeping away from that stuff, and we monitor it too. You see what I'm saying?
So we have a couple of people who have raised their hands. What we want to do too, because there's a number of us speaking on these issues, we want to limit our words so that others who want to speak on a particular thing is able to do that as well. We're going to start with Kimberly Gonzalez first, and then Brother Raphael. They have their hands raised on this issue of, do we rebuke our children,
Yes.
or do we reprieve them? And any other thing that you wanted to add into that as well.
Yes, I did want to piggyback off of something that was mentioned earlier about the school systems and the teachers and the how things are going in the system, just because I do have myself a degree in education, and for me, I chose not to go in the route of continuing to teach. It was too radical. Now, the reason why is because the school systems are really just become glorified daycares. It's to the point, and I'll just speak what's going on in the region that I'm in Alabama. Well, more or less, there's supposed to be a limit for one of the head count. And the reason why is because you want to have a smaller head count so that the teacher can be more focused. And it's a bit easier to manage. What's going on now is the private schools have become more of the safer place, just because it's being paid for, I think. And so what's going on with the public schools is they're putting too many children in the class. And the point of that is sometimes the classes can get up to 27 people. I've had 27 kids at one time to the point there's no room. Now, sometimes that can work, but when you have younger teachers who, they're already not necessarily disciplined, and they've got all of these kids in the room. The majority of the time, it's classroom management, and you just kind of miss those things. So I think that what's going on is the younger crowd, they are just being passed along through the grades. When they get to the age of graduation, they're really not prepared for the world. Now, that's not their fault,
Right.
And that's the school system's fault, I think, more or less. It would help if those parents could help to reinforce, but a lot of times there's not engagement from the parents in the classrooms to assist the teacher. So, and that's not to say that the parents here are listening, they're not doing that, but a lot of the parents don't assist.
Right.
And so then you have those parents who are, the teachers that are young, and they're just looking so defeated. So I just wanted to more or less point that out. And I think that as far as accountability, the parents do have a major role. Again, I don't have kids, but I just think about what happened between my sister and I. The difference is my sister is 5.5 years older than me, and she never got disciplined as much. So, Mr. Boer, when you mentioned the, becoming a teenager and going on, and now you're trying to redirect this discipline, is more or less too late, because we at this point we spared the rod, and now we have spoiled that child.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what happened with my sister. She was given everything on a platter, and I'm not talking about her now. Of course, she's an adult and she's more mature, but it took a long time.
Yes.
With me, I did get that rod. I wasn't a bad child in that, I was disrespectful. I was what you would call a hyperactive child. So, but I was not spared the rods from my parents. or the school system. The school system, the paddlings, that definitely took place, but they took the paddlings out of the school systems. I don't even think that they do those anymore. But that was helpful for me to understand. I can't just do this here and go over here and do the same thing. They're also going to hold me accountable.
Mm-hmm.
So, but yeah, we kind of really, really lax with children, and not to be much longer, but really, really lax on children and adults sticking together. So even little things like the paddlings. Some parents have gotten to the point they don't want anyone else to touch their child, but at the same time, you're not also disciplining in the way that's necessary, like the Bible speaks of, spare the rod. So there's a rod there. That means that there's something there that you need to do, but that's not happening. And that's my contribution here.
We appreciate your comments on that. We are going to turn it over to, I believe Brother Raphael had his hand raised first, and then Sister Yaya. Then we're going to open up the topic to something else. We're going to ask Brother Rashad, being in the educational institution, to bring a particular topic that you want to discuss with what you are experiencing being in education. But before we do that, Brother Raphael and then Sister Yaya.
A lot of this does touch home to me, so it definitely, has me a little bit in some feelings right now because, I'm around this. I mean, we all come from this. A lot of us come from these broken homes and broken communities, and we see a lot of this, especially even around where I'm at now. Me and my dad got into a disagreement the other day, and his big thing that he likes to say is, "Oh, well, I didn't beat you when you was young." And I said to him, my response was, according to the scriptures, spoil the rod, what is it, spare the rod, spoil the child, or something, that particular quote. Well, the point was, I was saying to my dad, in essence, if you probably did discipline us back when we was children, things probably would have went in a different direction. Because his mindset, and I love my dad, if he does watch this, I don't want to try to belittle him or nothing. It's more like, and it's not about the blame. I try not to go back and forth with him with that, but as sort of, on a larger scale, again, but us as a people, what I've seen growing up in the 90s, because again, we could talk about not having the cell phones and the computer, because I kind of didn't grow up with all of that stuff either, but I still remember growing up in the dysfunction with the family, as far as the partying from the adults. If we're going to pick the, I guess, not really, a parent is supposed to be a parent. They're supposed to raise their children the right way, just like the scriptures tell us. And I'm thankful that the Most High got me to understand that right now. That's not how I kind of came up, and that's not how a lot of my friends came up. I remember, I'm talking like in the 7th grade, going to my friend's house and his mother, and if she does see this, I'm not mentioning no names, it's all love, but we young, we're like probably 12, 13, and everybody's smoking weed and drinking, and cutting school, and she was like hanging out with us as if that was the thing. And as I got older, I started to look at her different, because I see her now. I'm older, and I look, and I'm like, man, I remember you hanging out with us like we were your friends, but we kind of needed that adult guidance. And now when I look at her sons is my friends, and they've been through it all. Her son, one got shot, got stabbed in his face. Her other son just came home doing prison time. And then, not to say that about her, but then it goes into even my household, as far as I got my little group, one of my brothers got some problems going on with him, and like I said, my mother had her issues. My mother was a foster child, so she kind of had her thing she told me on to. So, the best thing I think what my mother did for me was, as a child, she did instill the Bible. I don't really see my brother and my sister too much, but my mother grew up as a Seventh-day Adventist when she was in a group home or foster home. So, as a child, even though I was a knucklehead, I always believed in God, even before I knew God. That was always in my heart. So, even when I would cut school or if I was running around with the gangs or whatever, I always prayed. I remember I got into a car accident back when I was like 20 years old, and I know 2 people that died in a car accident that same year. So the first thing that happened when I got into, I'm gonna get to the point real quick. When I jumped out the car, my friend got stitches in his head. The first thing I did was jump on my knees and praise the Most High. So, and these are things that was instilled in me from a child. So I've always had that seed planted in me that even though my mother she had her problems and the house was a mess, I didn't let that go, and that's what I believe still got me here right now. And a lot of it is like, it's just the guidance and the just as much as we are, the children today are misinfluenced, being misled and wrongful influenced. A lot of our parents, not coming from the 80s. The 80s were just like you guys got in the White It Up documentaries, as far as like the the government's role in the drug epidemic and just the music as far as hip hop and the way things are glorified. When we dropped out of school, when we were young, my friends, a lot of us, we emulated what we seen on TV.
Yep.
So we seen because we didn't see it in school. So when I dropped out and my friends dropped out, we did what we listened to. I listened to Jay-Z back then. Jay-Z talked about Right Around Town, bringing New York thugs through and grind it down. I went with that and went to try to go take over a town in Virginia because I listened to that in the rap song.
Oh my goodness.
And my dad wanted to give me a 357 to go take that out there. Good thing I didn't even do that. I didn't get that. But so it's like when you get these influences from the music. I remember I went upstate too when I was when I was 18. I went away for 11 months. And at that time, even though there was a lot of fights going on in there, it was clear. And I remember when I came home and I was coming back to New York, I started hearing the hip hop music again. And I already knew because I was away from it for so long, I started to realize the hypnotism in it.
Yes.
I was like, wow. Like, and that's where, and now, so when I get back into the community, for a week, I wanted to do good. I remember I used to pick up trash when I used to see trash on the floor. I remember they used to teach us how not to take shortcuts. So I remember I didn't like to cut through the grass. I like to walk like the long way. But like after a week and being around that environment, I got a job at Taco Bell. After like a week of like hearing, just being around that environment, I ended up freaking quitting my job, selling crack through the doggone drive-through, having drug addicts come through the drive-through. I'm selling drugs out of the Taco Bell, and I ended up quitting and getting back into the streets again, and I got arrested again and did whatever. But the point was, as I get older and I analyze it now, I'm like, a lot of it plays with this influence with the music, with the movies, and when you don't have a strong foundation, you don't have a family that's speaking on the Most High, or basically the governance of this word, of this law, of how the Most High requires us to be. If we're not moving like that, and that's what the problem is out here, because we are in the land of our captivity, we are amongst a nation of dead people. These people don't follow God. So when we copy them, we're moving just like them, and that's why our people are dead out here. Yes. Because we're moving, we're not moving with life, we're moving with death.
Yes.
And I was a part of that for a long time, and I'm thankful the Most High basically, He put it in my heart to be, immersed, and now I get into His Word. I got my missing books in here. That's why I got to, later on, if we get into the topic, I'm kind of been studying about the subconscious and the conscience. And reading it, I see it in the book of Hebrews, in the book of Timothy, in the book of Titus, when it's always talking about a pure conscience. Mm-hmm. And I'm just analyzing that because a lot of people here don't have a conscience.
Right.
A lot of these young people, they want to be demons. That's the term out here. Like literally, you have these young people that say, "I'm on demon time." That's the term.
We've heard that, Brother Raphael. We have heard that they are doing that. This is what appeals to them. This is what they want to do. You know.
One thing I want to say too is this here. One thing you got to understand this: the media is so dangerous. I'm telling you, it's very hypnotic. I don't know if you remember when the movie New Jack City came out. But when that movie came out, did you see the crime that was going on in the theaters all over the United States? Mm-hmm. It was crazy. Young people were getting stabbed and shot just because of a movie riled them up so.
Wow. Yeah.
That movie, New Jack City. I remember that, and I was like, man, you got to be kidding. I had a friend of mine got stabbed in the stomach.
Yeah.
At the theater. And so the bottom line is this music and all that stuff is really, really wild and it's hypnotic. We're going to go ahead and let Yaya speak now, Brother Raphael.
Hey family, I was having like some really bad connection problems, so I'm glad to be I'm glad to be here. A storm, as you can see, it was raining and stuff like that, came and was messing with the connection, but I thank y'all that He allowed me to speak.
Yes.
When I think about I don't know, I'm not gonna say I'm mad about it, but I wish I would have been able to hear everybody's input. So I don't know if I'm going to say anything that has already been said. But anyway, when I think about the state of our youth today, I think about how, the devil's plan is going along as he planned.
Yeah.
The scripture says that, he will be after the seed, after our seed.
Yes.
So, and then, I think about the Willie Lynch letter, where it says that we will perpetually be destroyed as a people, and how did he do that? How did they do that? They destroyed the black family, they destroyed the black woman, they destroyed the black man, so that they can access our children better. So also, the devil, being that he's a spiritual being, he understands that because we are carnal, we get caught up in our carnal. So, we're blaming each other instead of really looking at the true enemy, which is the devil, which is Satan, who was prophesied to be our enemy.
Yes.
So, in destroying our families, through slavery, we've never made to gather ourselves as a people. We kept being destroyed. Every time we achieved excellence, we kept being destroyed. We kept being destroyed. So when I don't know the times and stuff like that, but we're in a time where marriage is not a thing right now. There's people who are married, but among our youth, that's not something that we're looking forward to, or not. That's not something that they're looking forward to. We're not helping each other out. So it's everybody for themselves kind of thing. The mother and the mother is with the children, and the dad's on the street. Not in all situations. We do have some family units, but it's not a common thing among our people right now.
Right.
So when we talk about the school system, being daycare, it's like, and you got a mom by herself, working 40 plus hours a week, and you add in the cost of living to where she's almost forced to work over 40 hours a week. How can she come home and then be involved in school when she got to rest and get back to work tomorrow? Matter of fact, not even come home and rest. Gotta feed the children, make sure they're bathed, love on them a little, put them straight to bed. You barely see your kids,
Right.
And then you back to work the next day. So it's like, how can we get involved with our children's schooling when we have to provide for them? A lot of us single mothers have to provide for them, and not really able to put that time in with them that they need. And then also, I think another thing that's happened over the generations is that, our families are getting younger and younger. We have children raising children, and then you got to add in the drugs. So it's like everything that you want to throw in the mix with why our youth is messed up, it goes back to our enemy. You know what I'm saying? Like I said, over time, we keep getting destroyed. We keep getting things thrown at us, and but there is, of course, a way out, and Yah is that way out. A lot of times in my chastisement, I feel like, I don't know if anybody has ever had their mother say to you, "Oh, that same stuff you doing to me, your children is gonna do to you." You're gonna have children one day, and they're gonna do the same thing. All that heck you raising with me, they're gonna do the same thing with you. I feel like that's what y'all doing. I think a lot of I'm gonna speak on myself. Sometimes when I see my child's disobedience, I think of my disobedience to Yah. Like, you know what I'm saying? It's like, I don't have a bad child. I have a child who I'm trying to get better at following instruction. You know what I'm saying? So a lot of the time, some of the lessons that I'm trying to teach my own child are conversations that I've had with Yah. So when I'm saying certain things to my child, I'm like, you know what, y'all works in funny ways, because he, doing things to teach me how I'm being to him,
Sister Yaya, there's a whole lot that you're saying that just can be a topic all by itself. So many different things that you've touched on. There are a whole lot of things that we are looking at as problems, and in terms of solutions, it all leads back to Yah. That's the way we see it. It all leads back to Yah. If we don't make that connection with Him, we can literally just hang it up, right? But there are so many problems and issues plaguing our young people. And if we don't bring it or lay it back at the Father's hands, it's only going to go from bad to worse. If we do a rewind, it always goes back to something the parents or the grandparents or whatever we have allowed in that child's life. Okay. At this point, we're going to open it up to Brother Rashad R. And then we'll take another topic after he presents this topic to us as well.
Yeah, so I think that again, it all goes back to, and we're all saying the same things here, is when I, engage with young people, is to always understand that it's not flesh and blood that we are fighting against.
Mm-hmm.
And I think like that has to be the initial mindset going in, because we always want to just say they are this, but it's like, again, what doors have we allowed to be open? What portals have we allowed to be open to be influences? If education is to be induced, which is to touch, right, is to engage, what have we allowed them to see? What have they been allowed to experience that is now on them? Whether they wanted it to be on them or not, it's on them. They're impressionable. So the goal now is to figure out ways in which to take that thing or those things that have attached themselves to our children and to detach them. Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of that starts with, like, again, parents being open enough to talk about real things. I know more about my students than their parents, and that's a problem.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
But what happens is that I'm able, in a sense, to break these walls down, in which this is why I try to tell parents all the time, you got to really get in a room with your child, close the door, and get to the real.
Yes.
We stay surface level. And again, I understand, I'm a parent, I have 3 children, me and my wife. So I understand that sometimes, as a parent, you don't know how to be a parent until you're a parent.
Right.
You don't know how to, people can give you all the advice in the world, but you don't really understand and know how to be a parent. You are parenting on the fly. You are learning as you go. You can take all the advice in the world, but you're learning. And so I think sometimes parents are afraid to find the thing that connects with their child, right? What is that thing that we connect on? Mm-hmm. Let that be the thing that opens the door to us sitting down and having this conversation. Listen, your children want to be honest with you. Your children want to be real with you. Your children want to get everything that is inside of them. They want to say it. But guess what they're not going to do? They are not going to initiate the conversation.
That's right.
What are they going to do? They might cuss you out and run out of the room. They may go spray paint a wall. They're going to do all these things that you look at as just like, why are you being bad? And you're looking at it from the wrong perspective. They're trying to tell you something, but because you aren't listening or looking at it through the lens of like, I'm crying out to you, but you aren't hearing me. It's so many, again, it's just hard for adults to sit down and say, hey, listen, I was wrong. I don't understand why I did this. So imagine how hard it is for a young person. Yeah. Because they don't know how you're going to respond. At the end of the day, your child wants to please you. Even, I don't care how crazy or bad you may think they are, at the end of the day, they want to impress you. And if they feel like they can't come to you and talk to you about those real things, then they're not. And they're going to find other outlets and other ways in which to do it. And in education, too, like, the environment is not in the best interest of our people.
Right.
The environment is, I have moved from so many different places where it was never about the children or the youth. It was about the hierarchy of like, listen, I don't agree with how this is being run. I can't be here.
Right.
You know, and so it becomes a thing where we have to understand that, like, the environment that you're sending your children into is not in the best interest for your child.
Mm-hmm.
Not individual teachers, the environment as a whole. Mm-hmm. So we have to build trust, and then we have to be in the business of changing the narrative, and that narrative again is based in Yah.
Yes.
And if that foundation is not set in that, and again, you spoke on it, and I was like smiling and agreeing when you were saying it, because I see so many parents, and there's even people in my own family who, you see a child at 11 and you're like, listen, y'all need to get control of this like right now.
Yeah.
You know, he's 8 or 9, y'all need to get this under control. And now a child is 16, 17, and you're just like, well, we're trying to, I'm like, what, that don't, you can't, that's not going to work. You know,
too late.
And I was using the example of if you have a dog and you let this dog sleep in your bed every single night, and then a year later you like trying to get the dog to not come in the room. The dog has already been programmed to think that I can do
this is okay.
Wow. This is why when you get a dog, you automatically send them into dog training when they're a little bitty puppy, so that they understand and know. And I'm not comparing our children to dogs, but I'm just saying it's the same thing with our children. We don't allow our children to do a lot of stuff that other children do. And guess what? When they get in those environments, they're just like, why y'all doing that?
Right.
Yeah. That's right.
Yeah.
Like, because we have trained them to understand certain things as babies.
Right.
So when they do leave us, when they do go away, or when they're in an environment where we are not, they have already been, well, my mama told me that that's not right. My daddy told me that that's not of Yah. And people look at them like, what? But it doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
Because now that those cracks that are there are not there.
Right.
And it's not to say you can protect them from everything, but you just have to lay that foundation down. And I think so many times parents just are not sitting down with their children and saying, listen, we are here for you, we're going to support you, we love you, but these are the ground rules. And again, we don't even sit down at dinner anymore.
Mm-hmm.
You know, how many families sit down and have dinner together with no TV and just sit down and talk about the day, talk about what's going on, what's really happening in your life, how was school, just outside of the surface level stuff. As parents, we got to get deep with our children, and it's uncomfortable because I have so many parents who come and say, man, I don't know how to sit down and have this conversation with them. And I'm like, okay, guess what? It's not that deep. Just sit down and start talking.
That's it. That's it right there.
That's right.
I wanted to interject a little bit on what you had said about the spiritual aspects of things. One problem that a lot of parents are faced with is when they do see things happening with their young people, they allow the medical establishment to say that the child has this disorder or that disorder or this going on or that going on.
Yes.
When really that is Hashatan trying to etch his way in. And when we don't understand that we wrestle not against flesh and blood, when we don't get that understanding up here, this is when I covered a story the other day where a very tragic story, okay, where she was having an argument with her mother. And on the freeway, she jumped out of the vehicle, okay, and she was killed, okay. Another story that I mentioned at the same time was a young man. He was on an airplane. They were in a small airplane, not something really big. It was like a private airplane. And this young man, teenager, just leaped towards the pilot to take control of the airplane and try to crash it. And so that pilot had to gain control of that plane again. And so when you look at both of these situations, these young people totally disregarded their own lives and the lives of others, okay? And most people would look at that. As a matter of fact, some people in the comment section, because they don't believe in demonic power, they say, well, no, that child was probably troubled or this or... Yes, they were troubled. But what is the source of that troubled?
Yes.
The source of it was a demonic voice speaking to them at that moment, telling them to do what they did. And because we want to disregard that and we don't want to think about that, we want to run to the doctor and see if they can prescribe a pill for that.
Or
if
put
they
a name on, a medical name on it. Yeah.
Put them in an institution or give them some injection. Because we refuse to acknowledge that we wrestle not against flesh and blood, this is why demons have taken over whole households and taking over the minds of people's children. So I want to say this real quick. I want to say this, that if you see anything in your children, like the brother said, you sit them down and you have a conversation with them. You talk to them and you ask them what is going on. Don't be afraid to talk to your children, because guess what? Demons ain't afraid to talk to them.
You know, it's amazing to me, the medical profession come up with all these titles and all these things, and especially when it comes to bad behavior. And, you know, my parents had a way of dealing with bad behavior, and the medical profession, the prescription that my mother and father would prescribe would be a butt whooping. And that got rid of any ADHD, it got rid of any type of mood swings or anything, period. It just got rid of it, you know. It's another, you better pay attention.
My mother too. I mean,
that's
my mother
how it was.
the same way.
You better pay attention. You know, that belt
Yes.
was a prescription. It didn't come in a pill in a little container. It came off my father's pants, and it worked every single time. Now, I want to say this here, because when you see these little things going on in these children and you see it young, I'm telling you right now, woo! Because we have a lot of kids, a lot of children, I learned over the years, because like the brother said, it's not like when you have your first baby, they hand you a manual on raising them. You know, so here's your manual on raising your child. This is what you got to do, what you don't do. They don't have those things, right? So you feeling your way with your first child, and then you say, oh man, okay, I can't do that with the next one, okay? And then with the next one, you're learning these things on. But I'm going to tell you something. That time is going to fly. I'm telling you, it's going to fly. You'll see your child at 7 years old doing something. You better deal with that thing.
Yeah.
Because you'll look up, they'll be 15, 16 years old. You'll be like, man, what happened? Those years are going to fly. I'm telling you, they're going to fly by so fast before you think that it'll just be a month. I'm telling you, a year or 2, 3 years will go by and you say, man, I didn't deal with that thing right. You better deal with those issues right. You better talk to them. Now, when I said the belt thing, of course, everything isn't a belt thing. I'm just telling you how it was in our days, okay? In our days, it was the belt thing, you know? But I'm just going to tell you right now, sit that child down, talk to them, find out what's going on with them. If they got issues, if they got this going on, that going on, you need to know what's going on, because if you don't, it's kind of like a drip under the sink. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That little drip under the sink, it's going to get worse.
It's going to
and
warp
worse.
the wood.
And you're going to go downstairs in the basement, ceiling be caving in literally, and everything else. You be like, man, from a drip? Yep, that little drip will tear the house up. Yep.
Yes.
And I was also going to say too, each child, like under our roof, every child is raised the same, but I think every child has to be disciplined.
Yes.
They be disciplined differently, because I know one of my sons, like I can just come to him and be like, what are you doing? Da, 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 da. I can talk to him in a way, right?
Right.
I have another child who is a little bit more sensitive in how he responds to how I talk to him. So I have to talk to him differently. So it's also for parents too to understand, you can't just talk to all of your children the same way. You have to know your children. You know, you have to know, hey, I know this child is different than this child, and so I have to, give him the same information, but give it to him in a way that's a little bit more like this instead of like that. So I think like that's important too, that it's not just a one-way thing in which, well, I said it and it didn't work. Well, because maybe, your child has to be talked to differently. So I think that's important as well.
Yes.
I agree with you 100% on that, Brother Rashad. I was actually going to mention my little Gracie. That is absolutely true. There is no one size fit all when it comes to children.
Yeah.
Okay. Grace is quite different than Aliyah. You know what I'm saying? And I know they're watching, Grace, she's a little more challenging, right?
Yes, indeed.
She's a little more challenging. And so, and I talked about this a few years ago, where with Grace, I decided to try something new. I decided to get up in the morning and just reaffirm to her that she is a good girl, that she's my sweet Gracie and all of this kind of stuff. And that just kind of started changing her little, and I know she probably over there smiling right now.
Yeah, because there's a different Grace to show up every now and then, and that different Grace to show up, everybody.
We have to try to remind her. I need you to be my sweet Gracie today, okay? Otherwise, that little MP3 player you got, that little MP3 player that you just love so much, mommy gonna take it and put it on the shelf for a whole week. Okay, that bike that you like riding around, we're gonna have to park it for a while.
Yeah, that little camera. All that stuff,
That little camera that you like to get pictures of the butterflies and the flowers is gonna vanish for a minute. It's gonna disappear. And so, but I don't really have to go through all of that with Aliyah, because Aliyah is not as challenging. She's such a more calm, and she's very caring about everybody, you know.
Yes.
And so, like I said, I know they're watching. And then little Yashiva, she kind of falls in between, right? Mm-hmm. But with every last child, they're all different.
Yeah, they're all different.
All three of our boys, they are all different, you know. And then we have adult children as well. And it's funny how our oldest son, Elijah, he talks about how we are totally different parents now to our younger children than when they were children. See, we have the adult children who look back and they say, well,
you would let me get away with that.
I say, well, Elijah,
they're a little different.
You're 25, almost 25 years old, and so that means mommy and poppy are a lot older, so we don't have the same energy that we had before. Yeah. And of course, we learned a lot as well. Yeah. Back then, I don't think we were doing enough taking away of things. There were certain things that Elijah loved, and we should have said, no, you know what, I'm going to take that away from him. But with the younger children, you take their little stuff away from them, they are counting down the days to when they can get the bike back. Yeah. Or the MP3 player or whatever. Aliyah, she will say, I got 2 more days, and then I'll be able to do this again. So,
Oh, let me tell you something, okay? Now, once upon a time, we were dealing with a situation with my son, Elijah, right? And you know what I did? I banned him from the internet for a whole year.
A whole year.
No internet completely for a whole year. And I'm telling you.
He was a teenager at the time, so that was rough on him.
Let me tell you something. That ban totally made a huge difference. It totally turned him completely around. To this day, those things that we were dealing with have been gone.
As a matter of fact, he speaks against those things as if he is a father himself, and he hasn't had any children. He'll say, well, I wouldn't allow my child to do that.
Yes.
When I become a father, when I get married, my child, he'll have conversations on various things that are happening in the world. And, well, I see the problem with this young person right here is that their parents are allowing them to. So now he speaks from that position now because of what we taught him.
Yes.
And because of what we have instilled in our children. And sometimes we'll ask them, we'll show them a certain behavior that we've seen, something that we may have seen online, and we'll ask them, if you was that child's mother, what would you do? If you were that child's father, what would you do? And so we take the teaching of our children to a whole other level. We use what's happening in the world to further instruct them and to get their input or their insight on things. Like we had mentioned years ago, we asked our children, we said, if mommy and daddy decided this year that we were going to take a break from growing food, that we're going to deal with it no more, we just going to, boom, we're going to just sit back, kick our feet up, and not grow any food, not do anything on the farm. Mm-hmm. And we asked all of them how they felt about that. And most of their answers was, we think that would be very irresponsible.
Yeah.
That was their answer. And so these are the kind of candid conversations we have with our children.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, so we have Sister Yaya who has her hand up. Did you want to bring another topic to the discussion?
Yeah, let's bring another topic, and then if you wanted to reiterate some of the things we just talked about.
Because we had a whole list of things we are not going to get to. Talking about children and the solutions of what's going on.
There's got to be a part 2 because I'm looking at it too.
Or part 3 and 4. This is an ongoing thing because there are 4 and 5, Sister Trudy Shepherd. 6, 7, 8, 9. because
it's enough things going on where we got to address it, because the youth, I'm telling you right now, just looking at things today, whew, I don't know where this world is going to be in another 20 years if things continue to go like it's going.
Right.
With the youth becoming the way that they're becoming. I mean, us individuals, we're trying to raise our children right. You know what I'm saying? But the majority of us out here in the world ain't thinking about that. They don't even want to even deal with their children. That's why they send them to the schools, right? When we were doing a homeschooling thing a few years ago, we decided to take in some children that schools were having a hard time with. And boy, I see why they were having a hard time with them children. Whew! You talking about... I was sitting there saying, what have we gotten into?
But we were able to get to the bottom of that, especially with this one family. When we found out that when they go home, the parents are allowing them to stay up till 1 o'clock in the morning watching movies, and the kind of movies they were watching, I'm not going to even say it now because some of them are adults now, right? And from time to time, they might hit our son up on Facebook or whatever. So, you know, I just hope things that are going well with their lives now. But the thing is, parents will undo things that you put in children. So when you are a good teacher or instructor or something like that, and you send them home to parents who don't care, then they unravel everything that you've put in them. Just to let you all know too, some of the things that we would like to discuss, not on this particular panel, but at a later date, is because, you know, we have to get to the point of solutions. We can point out every problem dealing with our young people, but the solutions is where we all need to put our heads together and come up with workable solutions. Of course, the bottom line, the main solution is repentance. So that's one of the things that we're going to be talking about, or that we should talk about. Is the child rebellious or misunderstood? Okay. Because there are situations where the parents on the back end are actually contributing to the delinquency of their minor. Okay. So another issue is parental allies to wickedness. Oh, you got a bunch of that going on. Parental allies. And then when do you take pity and when do you walk away? Those are other topics. Attacking versus tough love. Which is it? Are we attacking our young people, or is this just tough love? And then disrespect and dangerous attitudes. All of these things have to be addressed. The solutions of education, discipline, prayer, accountability, repentance. There are so many things that need to be discussed concerning our young people that we cannot cover it all in this particular panel, but we would definitely. And then someone in the chat said a career for our young people. So that would fall under the education of our young people.
I want to say this to some of you parents out there that maybe both working jobs. Okay, you both working jobs, and you know you're in a situation. You say, "Man, we can't go to a single family income, and we can't." I'm gonna tell you what you have to do. You have to really seek out, and you got to figure this thing out. You got to figure it out. Trust me on it. You got to figure it out. I remember years ago when we were, me and my wife both were working. Okay, and when we were working, both of us working jobs, it became extremely hard, and it didn't make sense because we had to pay for daycare for the younger kids, you know, and you send your child off to school, and you don't know what they're going to get in their spirit or whatever. So it got to the point where we had to figure some things out. We said, we got to figure this out, you know, and we ended up doing things at different times. Okay, and you may have that option where one could work a different shift and the other one works a late shift, the other one works an afternoon shift, while the other one work a morning shift. That may help, you know, things like that. Or you may have to come up with another source of income and other things. But you have to really think about that, because I'm telling you right now, unless you got a seriously good school that you can send kids to these days, it's really hard to think that they're going to come back, and that these school systems, they're not going to pick up any bad spirits from these other children, or that the teachers aren't going to not be fair with them in different various things. It's just you got to think those things out. So you got to really pray and seek out and think those things out.
And what Watchman is saying is true, and I want to address something here in the chat as well. In terms of, the school system, we have to understand this. Even if you find the best school on the planet, if these people are not Yah-fearing, they're going to inject all kinds of thoughts into your kids' minds.
Yes.
Right now, the system is telling boys that it's okay to like boys and girls that it's okay to like girls. And if that's not something, and then if you don't agree with those ideas, then they try to say that you are hateful or whatever. You are not hating anyone.
Right, exactly.
It's no different than if a parent tells their young person, no, I don't want you smoking, I don't want you drinking. A parent has a right to direct their children in the way that they should go. But this is a biblical right given to us. And I want to talk about this. I'll probably talk about it later on my channel, but there are so many issues concerning the deviant sexual behaviors out here, right? So many issues concerning that, to where one parent had a problem where her 6-year-old was in a hot tub at an all-women's facility,
Boy.
And this big hairy man who is, LGBT or whatever, or what do they call him? He's a transvestite or whatever. He decided that because he identifies as a woman, they said he hadn't had his operation yet, y'all. Y'all know where I'm going. And they sitting in a hot tub, and this 6-year-old child was subjected to this big man sitting in the hot tub with her. And that mother I can imagine the horror that she felt. And for society to say that mother and her daughter, they are the ones who are wrong for objecting to that, that's a problem. I don't know what I would do if my 6-year-old had to be subjected to something like that. And you have a system that's saying that 6-year-old is being taught wrong, or that this mother is teaching her child to be full of hate, because that was one of the issues of protest with this. The mother doesn't even want to be identified because of the backlash she knows she's going to get. How dare you teach your 6-year-old child not to want to sit next to this man in the hot tub? That is the type of thing that's happening in this world. This is why homeschooling appeals to so many people. Okay.
Yes.
One of the questions in the chat from Janene, they asked if we would think of doing a Zoom meet and greet for our young adults and teenagers. That is actually something that we had spoken about a few months back. We haven't implemented it as of yet, but that is definitely something that we feel is something that we need to do, so that parents can control the environment of who their children are meeting, because there are internet predators as well who are trying to get in inboxes and messaging your daughters and telling them this, that, and the third, or young women sending your sons pictures and trying to get their minds all messed up. So if parents could have some type of involvement through a controlled environment, I think that's an excellent idea. That we have already started the group on Watchman reports. So that's going to be the thing, is having the parents, if they are teenagers. Then of course we have older group for children that are in their 20s, because we have children in their 20s who are not going to want to do the meet and greet with younger people. But certainly I think that's an excellent idea.
Yes.
Shoe fell off.
Okay.
So
I think we're gonna go ahead on and maybe wrap this one up. And again, like we said, there's so much, man. I'm telling you, you don't even. It's so much to cover with the youth today, until we could just go hours and hours and hours, because it's just so much. There's so much going on. So much is interfering with the youth, keeping them from growing up being the type of person that Yah would have them to be. It's a lot of interference. It's a lot of eye candy is what they call it. So much they can look at and just tease them and want to pull them in this direction, pull them in that direction. It's just a lot. You know, it's a lot, and I tell you, it's crazy when you look at the media, the music, the movies, the internet. It's just so much coming at them until it's just crazy, and so.
Can I answer one question? I don't see the
sure.
question. Kuriana Turner. I'm sorry. She's saying, please, Mama Deborah, she has a question. Can you please drop your question in there, because we're going back and forth from the Zoom to the chat, so I didn't see your question come across there. So if you would like to input it in the chat again, we will do our best to touch on it really quickly, and then we are going to end this session. Did you want to go ahead and drop your question in there, Kuriana Turner? Okay, I'm not seeing the question.
Be on the next panel.
Okay, we can just submit your question to me, Kuriana, on the next panel, and then we will take it from there.
Okay, here it
Okay,
is.
the question that you have is kind of a little off topic of this one, concerning people calling themselves gods. That is kind of off topic of the state of our youth.
We're talking about the youth.
Yeah,
in
so
this one here. So that particular question, you can just send it to us in our email or something, and maybe
or
we can,
contact me on Facebook.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely.
So we thank everyone for taking the
Yes.
time to join us, everyone on our panel. Sister Yaya, Sister Trudy Shepherd, Brother Raphael, Brother Rashad R, Fakriya, Ahavaya, Kimberly Gonzalez, and we see Victory and Yah. I don't think we heard from them at all. They joined in, but I didn't see them raise their hand or give any input on anything. So we thank all of you for joining us.
Yes,
we've had a wonderful
absolutely.
conversation here. We've been at it a couple of hours, so we're going to let everyone get back to their Shabbats and do what they're going to do today, enjoying this day of rest.
Absolutely. Didn't we do a 4-hour one time?
Oh, yeah.
We were so wore out.
Yeah, we were worn out after that 4-hour session.
Yeah.
That was a couple of months ago.
Yes.
Or, I don't know how long ago it was. It was probably a
yeah.
month, maybe a month or two. So,
Yeah.
but we still enjoyed it. It was
Yeah.
very enjoyable at the same time, even though we were worn out because we had the Shabbat before that. We still enjoyed ourselves, and a lot of people were blessed by the whole gathering. It was awesome. I could see doing something like that on a non-Shabbat day, perhaps, or earlier in the day where everyone is not so tired already. But
Yes.
nonetheless, family, we thank you all for joining us, and we love you all.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. I want to have a quick prayer. Hallelujah.
Okay.
Father, yeah, we thank you so much for all that you do and watching over us and keeping us all as families and keeping all these individuals that are on that are watching our broadcast right now.
Hallelujah.
We ask you, Father, you can look in every household and you know what the situation is. And our people need your help, Father. Yeah. They need your help. They need to know what decision to make, Father. Yeah. We're trying to raise children, Father. Yeah. And this society don't want us to raise our children. This society don't want our children to make it at all. But we know you want us to do whatever we have to do to cause our children to make it. And we just want your will to be done, Father. Yeah. So we ask you to give us the strength to make the decisions that we need to make. Give us the guidance, Father. Yeah. Show us what direction we need to go in, Father. Yeah, so we can at least turn around the direction that our youth may be going in our families. Hallelujah.
Hallelujah.
That they'll continue to go in that right path. You said train them up in the way they should go, and when they get older, they won't depart. So this is what we want to do, Father. Yeah, and we ask you to give us guidance on doing that and show us what that means. We love you, Father. Yeah, in Yahushua HaMashiach's name we pray. Hallelujah.
Hallelujah.
Well, family, on that note,
we are going to say shalom. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Shabbat shalom,
family.
Shalom, family. Shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
What's up, family?
Shabbat shalom, family.
Shabbat shalom, Trudy.
Yes, sister, I see you. How are you? I'm so excited. You know, girl.
I know.